A gentle breeze swept through the sunlit courtyard of Clarence House on a bustling Saturday afternoon, August 12, 2023, rustling the leaves of the ancient oaks that stood sentinel along the perimeter. Tourists from every corner of the globe filled the space, their voices a vibrant tapestry of languages: Spanish, Mandarin, French, blending into a lively hum that echoed off the palace's sandstone walls. The scent of blooming roses from the nearby gardens mingled with the faint aroma of street food from vendors just beyond the gates, creating a sensory feast for the visitors. At the heart of the courtyard, a royal guard stood at his post, his scarlet tunic glowing under the midday sun, his bearskin hat casting a shadow across his chiseled features. His posture was unyielding, a pillar of tradition amidst the modern chaos, his eyes locked on an unseen horizon, betraying nothing of the alertness that simmered beneath his disciplined exterior. Among the throng of sightseers was Ethan Carter, a 29-year-old tech enthusiast from Seattle, his lanky frame weighed down by a backpack stuffed with gadgets. His curly brown hair stuck to his forehead in the summer heat, and his glasses fogged slightly as he hunched over the controls of a sleek, black drone, a high-end model he'd bought to elevate his travel vlog. Ethan's heart raced with excitement as he pictured the viral footage he'd capture, an aerial view of Clarence House, the guard framed perfectly against the ornate gates, his subscribers raving about the cinematic quality. The drone hummed softly as it lifted into the air, its 4K camera glinting in the sunlight, weaving between clusters of tourists who glanced up with mild curiosity. Ethan's fingers danced over the controls, his focus narrowed to the tiny screen in his hands, oblivious to the growing unease in the crowd around him. The drone's propellers sliced through the warm air as it dipped lower, its shadow skimming the cobblestones like a bird of prey. A street performer playing a violin nearby paused mid-note, his bow hovering as he watched the device swoop dangerously close to the guard. A group of schoolgirls in matching uniforms giggled nervously, their teacher shushing them with a worried frown, her eyes tracking the drone's erratic path. Ethan, lost in his pursuit of the perfect shot, angled the drone for a dramatic close-up of the guard, but a sudden shift in the breeze threw the device off balance. The drone lurched sideways, its motors whining as it spiraled out of control, hurtling directly toward the guard, who stood as still as a statue, his gaze unwavering despite the approaching threat. The crowd's murmurs turned to gasps, their voices rising in a crescendo of alarm as the drone slammed into the guard's bearskin hat, knocking it to the ground with a dull thud before crashing onto the cobblestones in a tangle of shattered plastic and sparking wires. Time seemed to freeze in the aftermath, the courtyard falling into a stunned silence broken only by the faint crackle of the drone's damaged circuitry. The guard's hat lay in the dirt, its black fur marred with scuff marks, a jarring symbol of the breach in protocol. Ethan's hands shook as he clutched the controls, his face draining of color, his glasses slipping down his nose as he stared at the wreckage. The crowd's silence erupted into a wave of whispers, their phones raised to capture the scene, their faces a mix of shock and anticipation. A father hoisted his young daughter onto his shoulders, her wide eyes fixed on the guard, while a group of backpackers exchanged nervous glances, one of them muttering about the fines for such a stunt. The tension in the air was palpable, a storm waiting to break, as all eyes turned to the guard, whose stoic demeanor had yet to falter. The guard's eyes, which had been fixed on the horizon, slowly shifted to the wreckage at his feet, then to Ethan, his gaze piercing through the crowd like a laser. His face remained impassive, but there was a subtle tightening in his jaw, a flicker of controlled anger that sent a shiver through the onlookers. He took a single, deliberate step forward, his polished boots crunching against the broken drone, the sound sharp and ominous in the quiet courtyard. Ethan stumbled backward, his sneakers catching on a cobblestone, his heart pounding as he realized the gravity of his mistake. The crowd parted instinctively, their murmurs growing louder, some stepping back in fear while others leaned in, their morbid curiosity outweighing their apprehension. A street vendor selling postcards dropped his tray, the cards scattering across the ground, his eyes wide as he watched the guard's measured advance. The guard bent down with a slow, deliberate motion, retrieving his bearskin hat from the dirt, his movements precise and unhurried. As he straightened, the sunlight caught a faint scar on his neck, a jagged line that hinted at a past far removed from ceremonial duties, a past where he had once disarmed an insurgent in a dusty marketplace, his quick reflexes saving a squad of civilians. The crowd gasped softly, their whispers turning to speculation as they noticed the scar, their phones zooming in to capture the detail. A retired military officer in the crowd, his own face weathered by years of service, nodded in recognition, his voice low as he told his grandson that the guard was likely a former commando, a man who had seen combat in places these tourists could only imagine. The grandson's jaw dropped, his perception of the guard shifting from a ceremonial figure to a battle-hardened warrior. Ethan's hands trembled as he shoved the drone controls into his backpack, his mind racing with excuses, but the guard's gaze held him in place, a predator assessing its prey. The guard dusted off his hat, the motion almost casual, but there was a quiet menace in his posture, a promise of consequences that made the crowd hold its breath. Suddenly, a child's balloon slipped from her hand, the bright red orb floating into the air, its string trailing like a comet's tail, and the distraction broke the tension like a dam bursting. The crowd erupted into chaos, their voices rising in a cacophony of shouts and gasps, some tourists scrambling to get away while others surged forward, their phones thrust out like shields. A mother screamed as she pulled her child back, her ice cream cone falling to the ground, while a group of teenagers laughed nervously, one of them shouting about posting the video on TikTok. The guard's response was swift and precise, a testament to his training. He stepped forward, his boots echoing against the cobblestones, and raised a hand, signaling for reinforcements. 2 more guards appeared from the palace gates, their rifles at the ready, their faces stern as they moved to contain the crowd. The chaos intensified, tourists tripping over each other in their haste to escape, their shouts mingling with the sound of sirens in the distance as palace security descended on the scene. Ethan tried to blend into the crowd, his backpack bouncing against his back as he pushed through the throng, but the guards were faster, their hands clamping down on his shoulders with a grip like steel. The crowd's chaos reached a fever pitch, their phones capturing every moment, the hashtag number Clarence House Chaos trending within minutes as the incident went viral. The original guard returned to his post, his bearskin hat back in place, the black fur still bearing faint traces of dust from its fall, a subtle blemish on his otherwise impeccable appearance. His posture was as rigid as ever, a testament to his unyielding discipline, but there was a faint tension in his stance, a barely perceptible tightness in his shoulders, a silent reminder of the storm he had just weathered and the storm he was prepared to face again if needed. The crowd slowly dispersed, their initial excitement giving way to hushed whispers of awe and fear, their voices tinged with a newfound respect as they exchanged glances, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others clutching their phones with footage they knew would go viral. Their perception of the guard had been forever altered, their minds replaying the moment of chaos, the drone's crash, and the guard's unshakable resolve. They had come for a glimpse of tradition, a postcard-perfect memory to share on social media, but they had witnessed a display of raw, disciplined power, a stark reminder that even in the heart of a tourist attraction, danger and strength lurked beneath the surface, coiled like a spring, waiting for the right moment to erupt and shatter the illusion of safety.